What's up, 2K crew, and welcome to episode 54. We got something kind of special. I don't believe we did this last year, but yeah, we're gonna give it. I know there's gonna be a lot of people say, Turbo 2Ks, it's way too early. Why the fuck would you do that? Why? Because we want to.
Yeah.
Because we want to. This is going to be our. Can we call it our mock draft 1.0 since Mel Kiper and them do the 1.0, 2.0?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, obviously 1.0, we're before the combine, so
Yep. Which is
a
what,
lot of
next
things are going to
weekend?
probably change. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, after the combine, there's always those 2 or 3, 4 dudes that just stand out, and there's always 2 or 3 of them that actually just suck.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I have a very good feeling Joe Burrow's not going to throw. He's just going to show up, do some drills, get measured, all that jazz. But, yeah, even if he does throw, I don't think anything's going to change. All right, well, before we jump into this juicy content, I did want to give some love to all of our YouTube viewers out there. Big shout out to you. Between the Coach Kaler interview and the entire episode last week, we reached over 150 views, and we gained about 12 subscribers, which is really awesome. And unfortunately, the boys went out Friday and weren't able to pull off the W, but I think they're still sitting in a really good spot to make some noise in conference tournament. And
yeah, pretty much they control their own destiny. I mean, they're still they would be tied for first now, but if they win out, then they'll be in first place, so they'll win the league. So it's all up to them. They have some big games here down the stretch against Cass and against also Bloomingdale, and so those would be the 2 really big games, but both of them are at home. So
even better, folks. Let's get out and support this team, because they're kicking ass, and I'm sure they'd love to see your smiling faces. So yeah, if for those of you that are joining us after the Coach Kaler interview, make sure you go ahead and subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you get the notifications when we upload the next video. For those of you listening on your podcast, wherever you get your podcast, go ahead and subscribe, like, leave us a review, and we'll read it on the show. And before we get too far into this, remind me, because we have one of those to read, 2Ks. I won't get into it now because I have to find it. But yeah, so let's jump into this. The 2020 Turbo and 2Ks mock draft 1.0. And we're only doing the first round, folks, because I have a feeling if we went any deeper, we'd lose 3/4 of you. And to be honest with you, once it gets past like the first 2 rounds, I don't know who the fuck these people are. So, and to be honest with you, I'm not going to claim I know every single dude on this list or actually watched him play, but I'm going off of scouting reports and everything else. And what I did, and 2K's kind of made his a little bit cooler, is that I assume there's no trades, just everything goes according to chalk. But 2Ks, let's be real, with all of these teams having multiple picks in the first round, I have a feeling this isn't going to go even close to chalk.
No, and I did one trade, and the only reason why I put this one in there is because I think a lot of our listeners are probably Detroit fans. So I wanted to, I think it makes sense for Detroit to trade back with their first round pick. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to give it away yet until we start going on this. But
you got to tickle the balls a little bit.
So I just put this one trade just for Lions fans, maybe to think about, ponder the thought. But there's obviously going to be a lot more. There's a lot of teams going into this draft with multiple picks in the first round, first 2 rounds. So there's going to be a lot of trades.
Well, before we jump into it, I actually did find the Ducky 1169 gave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Says, love episode number 50. Thank you for using listeners' ideas. Well, Ducky, you are more than welcome, and that's where we like to. That's why we have the 2K group. That's why we interact with you guys, is to get show ideas, because as creative as you and I can be, it's hard coming up with topics every week. So that's why we love our listeners and viewers. So 2Ks. I don't think it's going to be any shock to the world with both mine and your number 1 pick.
No.
So the Bengals are on the clock. Are we agreeing that Joe Burrow is going to be a Bengal?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, there's no way there's no way. Bengals cannot mess this pick up. I think this is the the biggest sure thing as far as the quarterbacks that are in this draft. Obviously, without the Tua injury, we might be speaking a little bit differently.
I was just going to ask if Tua's healthy, would you take Tua over Joe Burrow if you're the Bengals?
Man, Burrow was. I mean, he won the Heisman Trophy this year. He won the national championship. There was never a time watching him this entire season where I questioned him. I mean, he was the best player in college football. I know a lot of people want to say Chase Young is the best player in college football, but in my opinion, no. Joe Burrow was the best player in college football this past season. So
Chase Young, towards the end of the year, whether it was schemed or the Michigan game, he was not there. The playoff game, not there. So like I said, whether it was scheming, getting double and triple teamed a lot, which happened.
Oh, absolutely.
But to be the best player in the country, you have to overcome and just take over.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Joe Burrow was the best player in college football. Chase Young is the best player in this draft.
Yeah.
You know, this is very similar to last year's draft, where the best player in the draft went number 2 to the 49ers.
And we saw how that ended up. We saw how that ended up. So speaking of Mr. Chase Young, I think we both can agree that he's going to the Redskins.
Yep. And like I just said, best player in the draft. The Redskins getting Coach Rivera there. Yeah. That's a team to look out for. I'm not saying in this next season, but look out for them in the future, because I think they got out of all the coaches, out of all the coaching changes, I think that they got the best available coach that there was. So
it seems like they're being overrun with Buckeyes too.
Yep. Well, that's not a bad thing.
No. And I mean, Haskins looked less than mediocre last year, but that was a horrible team with a horrible coach. Now, like you said, you bring in Riverboat Ron. That if you look at his days in Carolina, they were always competitive.
Yep.
They went to a Super Bowl. Is Haskins and Cam Newton the same type of quarterback? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I think he's going to be able to get the best out of Haskins. I don't think we've seen the best of him of Haskins yet. So you have an offense that I think can shock some people.
Yep.
There's still a lot of work there, but adding Chase Young as that dominant pass rusher on the edge, I think there's 32 or 31 other teams that would gladly have Chase Young on the edge there.
Yep.
So I think it's a solid building block, and I don't think you're going to see the shock and awe factor of Chase Young to probably year 2 or 3, but it's going to be there. Of course, all of these are barring injuries, folks. We really can't foresee that in the future, but so yeah, I think that's a very good step in the direction for all you Redskin fans, and I know it's been a hard kind of uphill battle here the last few years. I know the last couple years with Cousins, you guys made some noise, and then because you basically mortgaged the farm to get RG3, and for that, when RG3 was healthy and been doing RG3 things, that team was in the playoffs. That team was doing a lot of good things, but unfortunately, like we said, injuries can take a toll, and which was a shame, because what would really be cool is to watch RG3 now, healthy with the Redskins, go against Jackson in the Ravens, two very similar quarterbacks. Yeah. Very similar quarterbacks. That would actually be a lot of fun to watch. So 2Ks, drop you already teased it, you already tickled it. Drop your trade bomb on the 2K crew.
Yeah, so I think the Lions, where they stand in this draft, I think they're going to have a lot of leverage, because I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are looking for a quarterback, and teams are going to want to be moving up, because there's going to be multiple teams, trying to reach up there to grab a guy like Tua, or if it's not Tua, possibly Justin Herbert, if teams are afraid of the injury a little bit. But there's a lot of teams you look at, the Chargers, you don't have Rivers there anymore, so. Nope. They're going to be looking for a quarterback. And the Panthers, what's going on with Cam Newton? I mean, are they going to be looking for a quarterback? And the Raiders, are we done? Are they done with Carr there, or are they ready to move on? So there's a lot of teams, I think, that want to move up.
And do the Titans re-sign?
Tannehill.
Tannehill, thank you.
And to me, and even if teams move up, say they move up to the number 2 pick, trying to stretch for one of these quarterbacks, well, then the best player in the draft moves down to the Lions, and they get to take him at number 3. So there's a lot of different things I think that can happen here. I don't think that anybody moves up to the 2 pick, and I don't think the Redskins give it away because they don't want to give up on Chase Young. But I think that the Lions are smart here if they trade back, because I think they can still get who they want, in my opinion, who they should take. And so I think they should move back here. And you're only going to be moving back, 2-3 picks possibly.
Yeah, it's not like you're moving down to pick 15 or anything like that.
And so I had a matchup with the Dolphins. The Dolphins have multiple picks in the first round, so I have the Dolphins moving up to pick 3 here and taking Tua, and then the Dolphins trading away their 5th pick to the Lions and also their 26th pick to the Lions to move up here, and then the Lions would send back maybe a 3rd rounder or 4th round pick in that. So I have Tua going 3 to the Dolphins.
Well, to me, like I said, there's so many teams that have multiple first-round picks. I think this is just going to be a whirlwind. I really do. But in my opinion, if the Dolphins stay pat at pick 5, I don't think the Lions are going quarterback. I don't think the Giants are going quarterback. So there's really, in my opinion, there's not that urge to jump up to number 3. However, in a perfect world, do I agree that the Lions should move down, get multiple picks, and because they have a lot of holes to fill, not just one. Now, had it be if they were slotted at the pick 2, right? No, you stay with that pick and you take Chase Young.
The only reason I say that why I have the Dolphins moving up is because I think there's going to be multiple other teams that are going to be offering the Lions to try to get above the Dolphins to where the Dolphins are going to end up. The Lions are going to be taking offers to me leading up to this draft, and there's going to be other teams trying to get there. And I think in the end, the Dolphins have more picks, obviously, that are appealing to Detroit to trade, and I think that's why they're able to make this deal.
So yeah, you're basically saying that the Dolphins are trading up, so no one else
can jump ahead of them and get there. Take Tua from them. Because
like I said, now the Chargers behind him might be one that might be trying to get in on that. Yep. But I went, and I know this is not going according to Chalk, according to Kuiper and all those guys. I have the Lions taking Jedrick Williams Jr., offensive lineman from Alabama. Their defenses can kind of be a sieve at times, and yes, I made this pick saying that Stafford is with the team. Let me preface it with that. Because I know there's the rumors flying around Friday, and then 6 minutes later they came back and said no, these rumors are not true. You got to keep Stafford healthy. You got to keep him upright, and often the Lions have never had like that Jonathan Ogden, that Jason Peters, where you can put him in at left tackle for the next 12 years and just call it good, and at a pick where you could go a lot of ways with it, I don't think, even though this is a wide receiver heavy draft, that means you can get a quality wide receiver further on down. It is also very defensive heavy. Defensive linemen, edge rushers, maybe not so much at the linebacker, but definitely in the secondary with safeties and corners. But there aren't too many standout offensive linemen in this draft. So that's where I go if I'm the Lions. Protect my investment in Stafford. And you know what? It'll help the running game too. It'll help the running game, which will help open up that offense. Yep. Wouldn't it be nice for Lions fans to have a 1,000-yard rusher?
Yeah.
I mean, and that basically stems from starting with the offensive line, because they have running backs that can do it.
Yeah.
It would be. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir for Lions fans. It'd be nice to have 3, 4, 5, 6 games over 100 yards rushing for a back. That hasn't happened.
Nobody would want that more than Matthew Stafford himself.
Fuck yes.
I mean, how many times have they put so much pressure on him?
Throwing the ball 60 times a game.
Yes. So, pick 4 though, I went with Jedrick also, but I have him going pick 4 to the Giants. Kind of the same thing that you just touched on. As far as being able to protect Stafford.
And Saquon.
Yep. Yeah. The Giants, they drafted Mr. Daniel Jones last year. I'm pretty sure.
Danny Dimes.
He kind of surprised the world. He was very, very good.
I think he even surprised the Giants higher ups. I'm sure they didn't see this coming, but you're right. I mean, they could benefit the same exact way.
Yep.
And just think how much better Saquon will be when he actually has a little bit of a lane to run with. So yeah, that definitely could be a scary pick. I went And folks, I'm gonna be right out the gate. I'm gonna slander the fuck out of a lot of these names.
Yeah.
But I went Jeff Okunda,
Gouda.
the corner from Ohio State, which a lot of draft experts have going to the Lions.
That's where I have him going.
So, to me,
He's the best defensive back in this draft. I mean, there's hands down.
yeah. And the Giants, Giants are right there with the Lions. They have a lot of holes to fill, and their offense is up and coming. Offense was dinged up a lot with receivers. Hell, if Evan Ingram can play an entire season, I think that's a win for the Giants. But yeah, the defense to me for the Giants was probably the most silly thing to watch. So that's kind of why I went corner there.
Yep. Yeah, and with my 5th pick, I went Akuda to the Lions. So the Lions would move in my draft would move from the 3rd pick to the 5th pick with the trade with the Dolphins, and I have the Lions taking Akuda. There's no shock to me. The Lions have to go defense. They have. I mean, last year you can kind of chalk some things up on the offense just because they didn't have Stafford,
Right.
and then they were at one time they were, what was it, David Blau or something.
David Blau.
Blau from Purdue.
Wow, David Blau.
So, I mean, they're going to have Stafford back next year. I don't think there's really a whole lot of question with their offense. I think they're able to score points.
Yeah.
With the best of them. Defensively, though, they got to get better. Akuda's the best defensive back in this draft. Match him up with Darius Slay. He might have one of the best secondaries in the NFL there.
Today we're talking about Slay being on the trading block as well. So, but it's so hard to pick with the Lions because 9 times you want them to. There's just someone out there that's perfect.
Well, they've always found a way to fucking botch it. I look back to when they took the first tight end, Ebron, and Aaron Donald's sitting there. He goes with the next pick, and then last season, I haven't seen a lot out of Hawkinson, but in my opinion, there was a lot of. They should have went defense. I mean, there was a defensive line loaded draft last year with studs all over the place, and they went with a fucking tight end. And Stafford has never been somebody that's ever really thrown to a tight end. So
he really hasn't had Ebron, but Ebron really decided to play once he left Detroit, but Hawkinson had some signs of greatness. Mm-hmm. He had some streaks, let's say it that way.
Very, very streaky.
But when you're
a lot of injuries
when you're catching a ball from 3 different quarterbacks in 1 year, I'm sure that's not easy. Well, with the 5th pick, I have the Dolphins taking Tua. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm the Dolphins, it's hard for me to take that pick just because of the injuries. Mm-hmm. I'm going back to the ankles. I'm going back to, of course, the hip, obviously, but it seems like he's. I don't know. It seems like the one was kind of like the first injury was whatever. He was back the next week, and then you look at the next one, took a couple games off, and then this one. It seems like they progressively keep getting worse. Mm-hmm. Whether that's just a streak of bad luck, who knows? Mm-hmm. Who knows? But it's hard to, as the Dolphins, not take such a dynamic player. Even if Tua was healthy, I would still take Burrow as the Bengals number 1, and probably the most polished, just prototypical quarterback, Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. Burrow. I mean, obviously Burrow's accolades follow him, and he's well deserved. But if you look at, top to bottom, I mean, if you had to, put together a prototypical quarterback, it's Justin Herbert. Yeah. He's accurate. He can throw the long ball. He can move a little bit, similar to Burrow, but he's done it longer. He has a bigger body of work, and I just think him playing in Oregon and having kind of a mediocre season is going to hurt him. Is Herbert still a first round talent? We're gonna have to wait and fucking see.
Well, you're not gonna have to wait very long because with the 6th pick with the Chargers, I have the Chargers taking Justin Herbert. I mean, the thing with Herbert, like you hit the nail on the head right there. And another thing also with him is if he leaves last season, he possibly is the number 1 quarterback on the board last year.
Yeah.
So The thing for me with Tua is the injuries are scary. This is a loaded quarterback class. I mean, but with Tua, the injuries scare me a little bit. But there's also like the upside with him is almost. I almost want to compare him to Mahomes a little bit.
Yeah.
Like if he's healthy and everything's good, he could be like the next Mahomes story.
The upside could outweigh the fear of injury.
Yes.
And he has to go high.
Mm-hmm.
He does, because if teams don't want to be the team to pass on Tua. You know, they just don't want that. And for the Chargers, I have them going defensive line, Derek Brown out of Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers were a weird one for me because the offensive line is relatively good, relatively healthy. Granted, there's still the overwhelming quarterback, you know, they don't have a quarter. They have Tyrod Taylor, even though they said Tyrod Taylor's can run our offense and he'd be a good fit. Bullshit. Bullshit. But I think, in my opinion, the Chargers get a quarterback from free agency. Mm-hmm. And to me, there's too much of a gap between, even though I just pumped up Herbert a lot, there's too much of a gap between Burrow and Tua for me that the Chargers, yes, you could go wide receiver here. Mm-hmm. CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy would look very good in a powder blue and just wreck defenses. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's still some offensive linemen out there, but I really don't think that's a need for them. To me, their defense was what held that team back. And the defense being on the field a lot because Rivers was throwing the ball to the other team a lot. But getting that anchor for the defensive line in Derek Brown, I think it's one of those, the smartest pick there. Mm-hmm. Are there better players? Yes. Mm-hmm. But I think that would fill a gap for the Chargers really, really well. So who do you have going to Carolina at pick 7?
Carolina pick 7. I'm having them go linebacker. Luke Kuechly, kind of out of nowhere, retiring this offseason. Best linebacker in this draft, in my opinion, Isaiah Simmons from Clemson. That's where I have the Panthers going with the 7th pick. I
agree 100% for the exact reason that you said, that Kuechly not only was an amazing player, but he was a leader. Mm-hmm. And we all know middle linebacker on the defense is probably he's the quarterback of the defense. So that's a dude that it's hard to replace. Yep. And we even look at going back a couple years with the Shazier injury and the Steelers taking your boy from Michigan, who they were seeing the fruits of that pick the end of the season. Yeah. Oh my God, that kid, he's turned into a beast. Mm-hmm. And if he keeps it up, if he has a great year next year, might be better than what Shazier was before he got hurt. Yep. So I think, again, that's a safety pick, and I think it's a great pick. And especially considering that they don't know exactly what's going to happen with Cam. They said it's going to be, depending upon his ankle and everything else. And I was before you even got here, they were talking about the workout they wanted him to do, that the ankle might not even be healthy to do the workout. Yeah. So again, a quarterback situation that's up in the air. And who's the kid that filled in for Cam while he was gone?
Oh,
he did do
Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen. Yeah, he was solid. He was solid.
He was solid. But then again, too, you're taking Ron Rivera out of the equation there. Yep. So kind of in a team in flux and with a lot of question marks, that to me, that you have to fill that void. Mm-hmm. So,
and the Panthers are another one of those teams that when I talk about Detroit having the 3rd pick and there's going to be teams calling wanting to move up, the Panthers are a team that might be calling, and if they can move up and get a pick there, then they're not taking this linebacker, they're going quarterback.
Right. And folks, you got to realize the further along we get down on this list, the price tag goes up for the Lions. So, number 8, who do you got, 2Ks?
I have the Cardinals taking Derek Brown, defensive lineman from Auburn. They obviously got their quarterback last year. Yep. I looked through here trying to pick out maybe one of these wide receivers because this is a very loaded wide receiving class. maybe trying to find a wide receiver to match up with what's his name there?
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray. But Derek Brown, defense, really hard to slip on that name. Probably the best interior lineman in this draft. Very hard to let that go. Cardinals have very good edge rushers, but they're kind of lacking in the interior line. So
Also have a pretty good secondary as well. So
Yep.
I had the Cardinals taking an offensive lineman, Tristan Wirfs, out of Iowa. You took Kyler Murray last year. He was running for his life 3/4 of the fucking season. You need to get that offensive line shored up. And again, same thing that I talked about with the Lions. You get that offensive line shored up. They've got some pretty good studs at running back over there. So that's only going to help. And the longer the offense is on the field, the more the defense is going to be able to catch their breath. Like we said, that defense is above average. They can play with the best of them. So when they're not overused during a game, I think that, and again, I'm sure if you're Kyler Murray and you stick Tristan over there at left tackle for the next 10 years, you're going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be happy. So now on to the Jacksonville Jaguars at pick number 9.
I have Jags going quarterback. I'm not sold on Foles there, obviously.
No, I don't think any Jags fans sold on Nick Foles.
He just needs to go back to the Eagles.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, and then Gardner Minshew, I mean, he was kind of the story there for a little bit. And he did, and respect to him, he did play pretty well there for a little bit, but he's not the quarterback of the future. I have him going Jacob Eason from Washington, quarterback. I obviously don't watch a whole lot of Pac-12 football, but some of the games I did watch of him, there's something about him. I just think he has it. I think he's going to be.
Tell you what, the commentators for Pac-12 football are better than they are for basketball.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But if he can get into a system to where maybe Foles can play, a legit quarterback for another year for them or another 2 years for him, and let Eason kind of work his way into it and not have to be the starter on day one. I don't know. I have a lot of quarterbacks going early in this draft. I think it's a very quarterback loaded draft. And
I took the approach that Minshew would pretty much win that starting job, and I've got him taking Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama, wide receiver, to help Minshew and Minshew mania and that fucking great mustache of his. Just take the Jags and. Under Minshew, the Jags were competitive in every game. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time since we could have said that the Jags are, especially with all of the trade demands and all the other weird shit that happened in the preseason and even during the season. And then your number one, your high price free agent in Foles gets hurt week 1 or 2. So yeah, I think Gardner wins that job, and Jerry Jeudy, from Bama is going to help kind of take the top off and do Jerry Jeudy things, and yeah, a little bit of spark to the Jags offense, a little bit of spark. So number 10, this one was a hard pick for me. This one really was. The Browns. Mm-hmm. The Browns defense is good. The Browns offense is good. The Browns have receivers. The Browns have running backs. They also have Baker Mayfield. And, Baker's even come out and said publicly that pretty much he shit the bed. He ran his mouth and needs to become more of a student of the game rather than just a hothead that runs his mouth. So we shall see if that really does transpire. But for a team that was underwhelming last year, and because there was so many people, not me, not you, that were saying that the Browns are going to win the division, they're going to make some noise in the playoffs. I was always one of those guys. Calm down. I want to see it.
Yeah.
And I never saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at a team like that, I go safe pick offensive lineman, and I went Andrew Thomas from Georgia. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, like I said, if you were to take a CeeDee Lamb which is probably the most dynamic offensive player on the board right there. You've got OBJ.
Yep.
You've got
Jarvis Landry.
You've got you're not going to draft a slot receiver at pick 10.
No. They have weapons all over that offense. But their biggest problem last year, obviously, Baker Mayfield turning the ball over. But a lot of Baker Mayfield's mistakes come from not having any protection.
Yes.
He's thrown out of his ear hole a lot of times there. I agree with you. I'm going offensive lineman also. I went with now I might botch this name, but Mekhi Becton from Louisville.
Okay.
Offensive tackle. Yeah, they have to get help on the offensive line. And one of the things that stood out about this guy for me is he's a fucking monster. He's listed at 6'7", 369 pounds.
Wow.
I think Baker's going to be pretty happy with that guy.
Yeah, and you're right. There were some of the interceptions were just Baker horrible throws. But yeah, that was the Browns aren't. They're kind of a complete team. Mm-hmm. They just need to. They don't have as many holes, obviously. No, of course, we're getting down to pick 10 here, and you would think the further on down, the fewer holes that teams have to fill. But yeah, I was just like,
let's be honest. The thing about that the Browns have to change is their biggest problem last year was their coaching.
Just stop being.
They were the highest penalized team in the NFL. They shot themselves in the foot all year long. Baker Mayfield just kept on running his mouth, and and the press was all over them about that.
The whole Myles Garrett thing.
Yes, and the Myles Garrett thing just was awful timing. This team was already in the tabloids for everything, and Baker Mayfield's being talked about every single day
and underperforming.
Yes, and so they did the right thing. They got rid of the coach there. I have some questions about the new hire, but you know what? I don't know anything about him, so I'm gonna let him just do his thing, and then I kind of
see it.
Yes, yep. I've this last season I talked a lot about some coaching hires, and you know what? They turned out to be a lot better than I ever thought. So this year I want to see it before.
Oh, it's one of those things I don't want to put my foot in my mouth either. So. Mm-hmm. So number 11 with the Jets. Where do you have the Jets going?
I have the Jets going. This is another challenging name for me. Clavon Chasen, defensive end from LSU.
Okay.
LSU was they always are loaded on defense. Mm-hmm. It's kind of what was so shocking this year and what made them so good is LSU's never really had a quarterback.
No.
And offensively they've never been like what they were this year. You look back at like all the Les Miles teams that LSU had there, and a lot of success, but it was because of their defense.
Yeah.
This year they had the offense and they had a very good defense,
which was weird because the defense wasn't your prototypical LSU defense. Mm-hmm. They had a few more holes in it than under either Les Miles or any of them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks said that was going to be their detriment once it comes down to the college football playoff. But obviously, when your quarterback hangs almost 10 touchdowns in a game, defense can kind of not. They don't have to bring their best that day. Well, for me, I'm going to get Mr. Darnold a weapon, and I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma. I think him and Mr. Darnold will have a very good relationship. I think Sam Darnold's legit, but again, to me it was weighing an offensive lineman compared to a wide receiver, and now we're getting into the part of the draft where it makes sense to take these wide receivers. Will it shock me if either Judy or Lamb goes in the top 5? Nope, nope. Top 5, yeah, it kind of would. But shortly after that, with 6, 7, 8, it wouldn't shock me if they started flying off the board. But Darnold didn't have a lot of weapons.
No, and that's kind of always been the thing with the Jets. The Jets have never been a team that have had a whole lot of weapons. Keyshawn
Johnson's the last, him and Wayne Corbett were like the last game-changing wide receivers for the Jets that I can remember. I know, Cody, you're going to insert name here, but...
But no, that pick makes a lot of sense to give them a weapon, and you give them a weapon, and that makes Le'Veon Bell more of a weapon.
Yes.
Take some of the pressure off of him, and get some more weapons around him. The pick that pick makes a lot of sense to me.
Number 12. This one's gonna take a minute to get used to. The Las Vegas Raiders. So who do you have? The Raiders taking it 12.
Well, I said it when we were talking before we went on air. I really think that Tom Brady's going to end up a Raider. I have a feeling that he's proven everything that you possibly can prove in New England. He's the best there is. He's the best there ever's been.
It would be interesting and exciting to see the chemistry between him and Gruden.
Mm-hmm. And the only question that people I think have on Brady is, can he win without Belichick?
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, this move makes a lot of sense. You're moving to Vegas. It's a lot of cool shit going on.
TB12 heading to Vegas.
What better than for Oakland to move out of Oakland and move into Vegas and bring in the fucking GOAT?
Now it sounds like a fucking movie.
Yes.
To be honest with you. To be honest with you.
And with this pick,
TB12 goes into Vegas
and
in 2 years wins a Super Bowl, rides out on top, grabs his nuts, and says, "Fuck you guys, I'm out."
Well, this pick that the Raiders are taking here, that I have them taking 12, is going to give them. This kid right here will be a better receiver than Brady's had in New England since Moss was there. I'm saying the Raiders at 12 take Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, that's. I mean, he's definitely better than Edelman. Well, I shouldn't say better. They're two different types of receivers. Jeudy is more of a route runner, take the top off, whereas Edelman might be one of the best slot receivers in the league.
Oh, absolutely. One of the best slot receivers to ever play the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and so to say one's better than the other, probably shouldn't have said that, but you're right. He'd be the most dynamic wide receiver since Randy Moss. That's for sure. I'm going D-line here. I'm going Javon Kinlaw from South Carolina. I know it's not the splashy pick that I'm sure Gruden and the ownership there would love to have going and opening their new looks like the Darth Vader home in Las Vegas. But and it's still going to be weird. The Vegas Raiders, it's going to be weird. but yeah, I'm going D-line, shoring that defensive line up. And because to me, no matter if TB12 goes there or it's still Carr, to me, growing up, the Raiders have always been that just pound you to death, fuck you, and the best way to do that's to start with is defense. Mm-hmm. So that's my pick at number 12 with the Raiders. Number 13, the Colts are on the clock. 2Ks, where do they go?
I have the Colts going quarterback also, and I have them going with Jordan Love from Utah State.
Damn, you are quarterback heavy. I've got 2 quarterbacks off the board. You have what, 4, 5?
4.
4?
4. Yes.
Well, I have the Colts.
No, 5. It'd be my 5th. Jordan Love is my 5th.
I know that you and I both talked about this throughout the season. I'm not giving up on Jacoby Brissett quite yet. He had a lackluster year, yes. T.Y. Hilton was in and out of the lineup. Marlon Mack was towards the end in and out of the lineup. That defense is amazing. The offensive line is going to get better. Mm-hmm. I have him going and getting, whether it's Brissett or whoever else is there at quarterback, I'm going wide receiver again. And I'm going with Mr. Judy's running mate, Henry Ruggs III. I think that would be a great pickup and kind of take some pressure off of T.Y., where he doesn't have to be the only option. And they, like I said, to me, that's kind of their biggest weakness right now, is because if you can shut down T.Y., Marlon Mack might run a little bit. You know, like we mentioned, Ebron's there. But if you look at Ebron's numbers, he had a lot of touchdowns, yes, but not a lot of yards. So it was more he was more of a factor in the red zone, if anything else. So that's why I went with the Bama wide receiver to kind of open things up, and because you can't double both of them. One of them is going to have to be open. So, and I think too that will also help whichever quarterback is there. Like I said, I'm still not bailing on Jacoby Brissett quite yet. Now we move on to, and again, to number 14, to the Bucks. This is another team with quarterback questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, maybe now that Jameis has got his eyes fixed.
Yeah. I think they got to give him another shot.
Dude, really? You wait until you're in the league for 5 years before you get LASIK surgery.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
There's a lot of stuff that Jameis has done that I don't get.
Touche.
So, I mean,
like not paying for crab legs. I mean, brother, guess. But yeah,
but it all kind of makes sense to me now, because there's times where I watch the Bucks play, and anybody that has ever played fantasy football with me knows that I normally always take Winston because, I mean, yeah, the guy throws 3 or 4 picks every game, but he also throws 3 or 4 touchdowns every game, and he throws for 400 yards. And
yep.
So that's why I always take him. But I watch him so many times, and I'm just like, what the fuck were you looking at, man? Like, you can't throw it through guys. You can't throw it through them. It doesn't work that way.
Well, I'm pretty sure that it was to fix. He was nearsighted, so he couldn't see far away, which is what I'm nearsighted. I wear contacts and glasses, and eventually that's what I want to do, is get LASIK as well. But because I'm seeing kind of the same thing he is, you can still see fucking colors.
Yeah.
You can still see colors. So, but yeah, I think that's one where Jameis stays with the Bucks. I think that that team's not bad.
No, they're not. They're not. And they
obviously they're pick 14, so they're pretty much right in the middle. But I'm going to help Jameis, and I'm going to go offensive lineman, Tristan Wirtz from Iowa. Again, you're going to see a pattern every time I'd say someone's taking an offensive lineman. It's for the same exact reasons. You know, it's instead of, like a Kyler Murray that you're protecting that is more of a mobile, smaller quarterback. You got Jameis, who's your prototypical big dude.
Yep.
Can be mobile, but he can't throw the ball when he's on his ass. And I think that a lot of times that's where some of the interception woes come from, is being highly pressured. And you got Mike Evans. So you and O.J. Howard, when he decides to play, or when Jameis decides to get him the ball, that might be the issue. Maybe that his nearsighted surgery help him find O.J. because the dude's a beast when he gets the ball. So yeah, I think that obviously, again, the running game is going to improve with a better offensive line. So who do you have the Bucks taking their 2Ks?
I have the Bucks going defense. I think I'm with you. I believe that they stick with Jameis. They're loaded on offense with weapons, though. I mean, you look at what Chris Godwin kind of coming out of nowhere last season, and what he was, and obviously Mike Evans with that.
Top 5 receiver in the league. Easy.
I really, really pondered the thought of maybe a running back going here, and do they want to solidify that backfield, because they've kind of rolled with 2 different guys.
That was the other play I went, but I think in this draft 14 is a little high for a running back.
Yep, I agree 100%. I only have 1 running back going in the first round, and
I do as well.
To give it away, it's late in the first round. So, but I am going defensive side of the ball. Tampa Bay, over the years, their defense has been very, very lacking. Last year, they made a huge jump, and they were actually respectable. But I have them going with Javon Kinlaw, defensive end from South Carolina. He's your prototypical defensive end. He's like 6'6", very good pass rusher, defends the run very well. Kind of comparable a little bit to, it's hard to throw a comparable with Chase Young, but that's kind of, he's at that level. He's just, so that's where I have the Bucks going.
Pick 15 is the Broncos. I'm going corner. This is another team too that has quarterback issues.
Well, I really think that they found their guy last year. We're down in the second half of the season. The Broncos were in a lot of games last season, and they had opportunities to win a lot of games. I look back at kind of the one that's obvious to me is the Chicago Bears game that they basically had won.
Yeah.
And because of a cheap ass fucking penalty, they end up, Bears get a field goal and they win it. But it seemed like the Broncos were so close to winning so many games last year, and down the stretch when they actually went to Drew Lock, I think that they actually, I think he kind of won Mr. Elway over. I think he's the quarterback of the future there.
It's definitely not Flacco, that's for sure.
No,
definitely not Flacco. But let me see here. Yeah, I went Kristen Fulton, corner out of LSU. The reason I went that is, yes, they could use receivers. They could use a tight end. Offensive line isn't horrible. Running back situation is not horrible. I mean, it's probably above average with Lindsey and all, the couple other guys that fill in there. But to me, especially the last 10, 15 years, you think of the Broncos, you think of defense. I mean, obviously, with all of the players that have been in and out of there, it just hasn't been that Broncos kind of a field defense. And Von Miller's going to be Von Miller, but Von Miller he's not a corner. He doesn't cover. So just that extra little boost in the secondary, I think, might help get them back to obviously one pick isn't going to bring that stellar defense back, but I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yep. I have the Broncos going with a wide receiver. Last year, and this is another thing, for Drew Lock, is last season they traded away Emmanuel Sanders, their best wide receiver, to the Niners. So this year in the draft, I think they have to get him a weapon, maybe multiple weapons in this draft. But I have him at pick 15, taking CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver from Oklahoma.
Yeah. The only reason I didn't go receiver there is I think the top ones I had already gotten off the board, and to go with any else right there for the 15th pick might have been a little bit of a stretch. But yeah, you're right. Could be. Number 16, the Falcons, probably the most disappointing fucking team in the NFL last year.
Yeah, especially at the beginning of the season, they did start to kind of figure some things out later in the season. To me, this pick, they have to go
figured it out after trading Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah,
their number 2 receiver, but Calvin Ridley stepped up very large.
Yep.
Thank you he's on my fantasy team. But Matt Ryan's a very good quarterback. Devontae Freeman is a very good running back. You have arguably the best receiver in the league and a very good number 2. You've got a tight end that's in the top 5. The defense just blows ass.
Yep.
Blows ass and blows games.
Yep.
So for that reason, I went Mr. Kaysen. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his first name. Mr. Kaysen out of LSU to rush that edge and help that defense kind of get closer to where the offense is.
Yep, and I went defense also. I went A.J. Epinesa from Iowa. Don't really know how to pronounce his name. Being that he's from Iowa and plays Big Ten, I have watched him, over the last couple of years. Very, 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 very solid player. Very, very good pass rusher. Very good defending the run. Kind of that old school, Iowa tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just stick your neck in there, tough player.
That's what the Big Ten does.
And to me, that's what the Falcons need. The Falcons have to go defense here.
Now this pick is close to your heart here, 2Ks.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Where are not your boys, dem boys, the Cowboys going with pick 17?
They have to go defense also. I mean, their offense can light it up with about every offense in the NFL, with the exception of maybe the Chiefs.
Now are you saying that Dak is going to be the quarterback making this pick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So they have to go defense here. They have to have I think last year I read a stat that they had 7 forced turnovers in the secondary all last season.
That's ridiculous.
You have to get a ball hawk, some type of a playmaker in this. And there's 2 safeties in this draft that I've kind of went back and forth on. Xavier McKinney, safety for Alabama, and Grant Delpit, safety for LSU. And I've went back and forth on them, and I don't know for the longest time I really didn't know which one I wanted more. Delpit's probably more of that ball hawks, but he was kind of exposed, especially in some of those playoff games, watching that as far as making tackles. He doesn't run he kind of sits back, doesn't want to stick his head in there. To where McKinney from Alabama is just he's not quite the ball hawk, but he still is, and he's not afraid to stick his neck in on anything.
Playing for Saban, I think you have to do that.
So I want the Cowboys to go Xavier McKinney, safety from Alabama here.
To me, yes, the Cowboys secondary was horrendous. What kind of stuck out to me was the key to that offense. Yes, they have playmakers. Yes, Dak's going to be back. Amari Cooper will not be back, in my opinion. They have some other pieces here and there, but when that offense seemed to go, that's when Dak and Cooper were completely in sync. But still, you're kind of leaving behind probably the greatest asset of your offense, which is Zeke. Mm-hmm. But getting the pass game open to open that box is only going to make Zeke better. So I'm going receiver here. Again, another Alabama receiver, T. Higgins, that I think could be a very good replacement for Amari Cooper. And the offense moves forward and keeps the defense off the field, like we've already talked about, and kind of fills a gap that I think that if they overlook this gap, the offense is going to be, which I guess we could throw all of this out because everything I just said is based on the last regime. Mm-hmm. Now you got Mike McCarthy there, and it could all change. Mm-hmm. It could all change. So, but Amari Cooper leaves too much of a void. Mm-hmm. That it's something that there's fewer receivers than I think secondary combined, especially quality receivers. That at pick 17, that's a hole that I have to fill. Mm-hmm. Whereas the secondary I want to fill, type of thing. So the Dolphins are up again at pick 18. Where are you going for the Dolphins, 2Ks?
I've taken offensive tackle from Georgia, Andrew Thomas. I have him trading up for Tua. So you invest your money into Tua as your quarterback, you better have people that can protect him.
Yes, especially with the past injuries and everything. Yep. Not a bad idea.
Yep.
I'm sending your boy Xavier McKinney to Miami. Mm. That's where I'm sending him. And again, pick number 19, the Raiders. Where do you got the Raiders going?
It seems like I keep on saying Alabama, LSU, Alabama, LSU. But I mean, there's a reason. Those are the colleges that put the most players in the NFL year in, year out. But I have the Raiders taking Patrick Queen, linebacker from LSU. Obviously, we watched a lot of LSU play this year because they were always in big games and ended up winning it all. But he was just another guy that always popped out to me. Very solid. And the Raiders, I have them taking Jerry Jeudy and then teaming up with Tom Brady. Now you better get your defense going too. So Patrick Queen.
I've got, is it Mekhi Becton, lineman from Louisville, again to help shore up, because the offensive line isn't horrible, but adding one more could never hurt, especially with multiple picks in the first round. Yep. With this pick, you might even see the Raiders trade back to get even more. Mm-hmm. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. Mm-hmm. Now, the Jags are up at pick 20. And, folks, like we said, there's a lot of teams with multiple picks in this first round. Yep. So, for all those Bears fans, you might be asking yourself, well, where's the Bears? Well, they traded that pick. They traded that pick for it was last year's pick, first round, and this year's first round pick for Mac. Yep. So that's why you're not seeing the Bears come up on here, which is why you're seeing the Raiders up here a lot. So the Jags at pick 20, 2Ks, where are you going?
I have the Jags going C.J. Henderson, cornerback from Florida. He traded away Jalen Ramsey last year. He was kind of a big deal on that defense.
Yeah.
To me, C.J. Henderson, very big physical defensive back that plays a lot of press man. That's pretty similar to what Jalen Ramsey was. That's kind of why I went with Henderson here at this pick.
I went defense as well, but I I'm going to give him an edge rusher and going to slaughter this name. Yetur Gross-Matos from Penn State. And again, Jags, immediately you think defense. And with obviously the trade demand that was met with Jalen Ramsey, just like you said, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So you got to fill. Obviously, a defensive lineman doesn't fill that spot, but it's definitely a spot that needs to be filled. So I think that's the. Let's see. We've got some Ohio State. We got some Iowa. Now we're getting into Penn State. So the Big Ten's sprinkled in here throughout. So pick 21, the Eagles. I'm going offensive lineman. To help Mr. Wentz, to help that running game, I am going Josh Jones from Houston, offensive line. Where are you going, 2Ks?
So with we mentioned all the quarterbacks that I had in mind. So obviously a lot of these skill position players moved back in my draft to where you had a lot of these guys that I'm naming off now earlier just because you didn't have your quarterbacks. This guy, though, a lot of the research I did looking at other people's mock drafts, he was all over the place. Some people had him down in the 20s, 30s. Some people had him up in the top 10. There were some guys that said that they thought he was the best wide receiver at Alabama. I'm going with the Eagles. They had so many injuries last season at wide receiver. You have to you have to have weapons out there. I'm going with Henry Ruggs III from Alabama.
I was had some of the again, just like you pointed out, had some of the wide receivers that hadn't been taken been on the board for the Eagles. Yes, I would have went there. But being that it's such a heavy wide receiver draft, this was the first year that Carson Wentz was healthy. I want to keep him healthy.
Yep.
So that's why I went offensive line. The Bills are up at 22. Again, this is a team. There's not a lot of holes. There really isn't. I think if Josh Allen would have played the beginning of the season, more like the end, you might have seen that team win the division, and the Pats be a wild card team rather than a division champion. So I got him going D-line, Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma. The Bills' defense is already stout. Their offensive line is really good. They have skill players around Allen. So that was about the best thing I could come up with, to be honest with you. That really was. It's not like into a crystal ball, but it's one of those things, in my opinion, when you have something great, and if you can add a little bit extra to it, why not?
Yeah. To me, the Bills, they're very solid defensively. You know what you're going to get. I picked for them to go with another weapon and add a wide receiver for them, and I went with Justin Jefferson, wide receiver of LSU.
All right. Which I'm sure Josh Allen wouldn't argue with.
No.
Wouldn't argue with. So here is probably the most, and when you and I did this, we didn't even talk about it until today. Showed you my list. I saw yours. Kind of ironic, we both went the same way with pick 24 or 23, excuse me. The Patriots. Now, you've already said that TB12 is not going to be in a Pats uni.
Well, in all honesty, the Patriots are going to do with this pick what they do with every first-round pick. They're going to trade back.
They're going to trade back.
And then they'll steal guys in the second and third round that nobody had on their radar. And
I think even if they trade back, they can still get this kid. I really do.
Yeah, possibly.
This was quite, and I'm saying this being kind of biased on this pick, but to me at 23 was a little bit of a reach. But I have we both have the Pats going Cole Kmet, tight end out of Notre Dame. Gronk's, and I'm not even saying that Cole's going to be in the same conversation as Gronk, so calm down, folks. But the most glaring, Gronk's absence was glaring all throughout the year. Like I said, we're not putting him with Gronk quite yet.
But everybody wants to see that next big deal as a tight end in New England. I mean, everybody knows the tight end position works out really, really well in New England. And
as much of a New England hater as I am, it pains me for my Notre Dame boys to go there. But that, and like I said, I'm on the train that Tom's going to be there. I think him and Tom would make a great pairing and could be extremely dangerous when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
So you, on the other hand, you've got Tom going to Vegas and going all in and pushing his chips in. And whoever's going to be the quarterback there, I mean, they're going to have obviously the best tight end in the draft. But yet, I couldn't even have named you Pat's tight end last year. I really couldn't.
No.
But everything else, their offensive line, legit.
I can name one tight end that the Patriots had, and the last name was Izzo, and the only reason I know that is because I remember looking to see if he was any relation to Tom Izzo.
The Pats' defense, great. Mm-hmm. Very few holes in that defense.
Oh, no, yeah.
Could they go receiver? Sure. But I think you get more value out of a tight end right here, especially at commence value right here. Mm. It's like adding another receiver too. Pick 24, the Saints. Again, the Saints this was probably the best defense that Drew Brees has had. Mm-hmm. Offensive line was good. He's got the best receiver. Top 5 running back. What the fuck was that? So it's kind of, again, you're trying to fill small holes and not really gaping holes. So who do you have the Saints? Now, is Drew Brees going to be back for the Saints?
I think so, yes. Yeah. I believe so. I was back and forth on it. This is another team that would not shock me to see them maybe possibly try to trade up to take a quarterback that they can put behind Brees for a year and not have to put him in the spot, right off the bat. But in this, I have them, playing it safe. Kenneth Murray, defensive back from Oklahoma. Very, very solid defensive back. So that's where I have them going. But this was. I spent a lot of time on this pick trying to pick it, pick who I was going to put in there. And after I got done, I was like, well, this is a really boring pick.
But there's, like I said, there's not a whole lot of holes to patch in this team. And I went on the defensive side of the ball too. I went Grant Delpit, safety out of LSU. Which, I mean, with a defense that good, any time that you give, you make it better, that's ultimately a weapon for Drew Brees. That the defense gets him the ball, and he can make shit happen. So, I don't. That to me is just a value pick because you really don't have any glaring needs. It's just where can we get value and where can we make our team better. Pick 25, the Vikings. I've got them going secondary as well. Trayvon Diggs, corner from Alabama.
I have the same exact pick. I have Trayvon Diggs going there, teaming up with his brother.
Yep.
Stephon Diggs.
Yep. Maybe they can. Oh man, could you imagine
some of those battles in practice,
which will turn into fist fights? Why? Because they're brothers. And that's what brothers do. So the Dolphins are up again at 26. And I have the first running back coming off the board, and Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin. Where do you have the Dolphins going?
So this is part of my trade from earlier with the Dolphins and the Lions. So in my draft, I have the 26th pick being the Lions also, and I have them going with Zach Bond, linebacker of Wisconsin. Again, Detroit has to go defense to me. They have to load up on defense in this draft.
It would be kind of sexy to have Jonathan Taylor in a Lions uniform, though, especially if you're a Lions fan. All right, pick 27, Seahawks. Where are you going? Where are you and Russell Wilson going with this draft?
I'm helping out Russell Wilson and getting him offensive line help. Also, the Seahawks run the football, more than anybody in the NFL, with the exception of the Niners.
Right.
So they run the football. They have very good running backs, even though they got injured last year, but. Those guys are going to be back. You have Russell Wilson as your quarterback. You got to protect that guy. So yes. I went with Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle from Iowa.
I went defense just to shore up that, because obviously the Legion of Boom is hell. There's only one dude that's left there. I am going Kenneth Murray, linebacker from Oklahoma, and just to kind of that defense was okay. It's not the defense that we're used to seeing. So I wanna help rebuild that defense because, like I said, when healthy, they run the ball. You have one of the top 5 quarterbacks that I would want. I'm not saying top 5 best in the league, but if I had to choose one quarterback, he'd be in my top 5 that I'd want to start my franchise around. So wide receiver, maybe, even though their first rounder from last year, his name escapes me right now, but he started he started emerging late in the season.
Big
that
time.
I think moving forward is going to be a huge
Metcalf.
weapon.
Yep.
So the Ravens at 28.
I have the Ravens taking Grant Delpit. A lot of the things he was the other one I wanted with the Cowboys, and I picked Xavier McKinney, but a lot of things they said about Delpit was he was just afraid of contact a little bit, and kind of was exploited as far as his tackling in the open field. Well, you get to work with a guy named Earl Thomas there with the Ravens, and he can probably teach you a thing or two about hitting guys in the open field.
Yeah, he's top 5 safety in the league.
Yeah,
even still in this point in his career.
Yeah, and he's a Hall of Famer.
Yep. I have, again, sticking in the secondary, I'm going C.J. Henderson, corner from Florida. Just, again, to help shore up. Not that the defense needs a lot of help in shoring up, but offensive line is great. Their wide receivers are good. Probably have the best trio of tight ends in the league. I don't even know if another team has a trio of tight ends. Obviously, quarterback, you're set in Jackson. So it seems like the offense is rather content. So, yeah, to me, at pick 28, Henderson's the best remaining defensive player on the board. The next one, the Titans, is the pick 29 at the Titans. This one's kind of a different one because you don't know if they're re-signing Tannehill, if they're using the franchise tag on, what's his name, the running back? Henry, yep. So there's a lot of question marks here, and there are probably more. I want to say that there's more free agents on this team going forward next year than any other team in the league. So it could be, you could go any number of ways here. Now, the way I approached it is they're letting Tannehill walk and putting more money towards Henry, and I'm going Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon, to the Titans. I think he, with that system, you would be getting him at a cheaper price than Tannehill, and I think you're getting a better quarterback than Tannehill, even though Tannehill's a little bit more proven. NFL proven. So where are you going for the Titans there, 2Ks?
This team runs the football. They didn't shy away from that at all. You saw that in the postseason. So I'm going to offensive line help, and I'm taking Josh Jones from Houston.
Like I said, you could go 17 different ways with that team, just depending on who you have coming back and who you have staying, where are they using the franchise tag. So moving to pick 30, who are you sending Coach LaFleur in the 30th pick in the NFL draft?
I went with wide receiver Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State. They got to get more weapons there. I mean, you have Devontae Adams, and so many times you watch the Packers play, and Devontae still ends up with 10, 15 catches and being targeted more than anybody in the NFL, with exception of maybe
Michael Thomas.
Yeah, Michael Thomas. But every single time you watch Devontae, he's got like 3 guys on him. He's been triple teamed because
somehow Rodgers still gets him the ball.
I mean, you have Aaron Jones, very, very, very good running back, and you can build around him as your running back. But you got to get more, receiving weapons for him, and that's where I went. That's why I went here with this pick.
Adams has a kind of a history of not playing 16 games, and they in the preseason, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of these younger receivers were hurt in the preseason. And Equanimous St. Brown from Notre Dame, who started to come on the end of the previous season, I don't think he played all year.
Yeah.
So, and if he did, it was 1 or 2 games and then went down.
It was just couple guys that I kind of talked about early in the season that I thought would be good for them. Geronimo Allison, kind of nowhere to be found during the season. Valdez Scantling, I thought he would be another one as far as fantasy football goes. I thought he would be one that would maybe be kind of a sleeper pick. No, I mean, most people were dropping him later in the season. I mean, he was just kind of nowhere to be found there. The guy that stepped up the most for them, other than Devontae, was Lazard. Lazard was their next best receiver all last season. So yeah, they to me it's a no-brainer here. They have to get Mr. Rogers another weapon.
I'm in total agreement with you. However, your pick is already off my board. So man, I'm gonna slaughter the shit out of this. Laviska Shenault Jr., receiver from Colorado. Never heard of him before. He's the best wide receiver left on the board at that point. So, yep, there you go, Coach LaFleur. Coach him up. And, I have a feeling this year, even if they don't go receiver here, you're going to see a lot of the guys that we just talked about get more in the mix once they're healthy and to help out Rodgers and that whole offense. So, 31st pick, 49ers. Who are you sending Dustin Perry?
So there's nobody runs the football like the 49ers run the football. I mean, they just ran it down the throat of teams all through the playoffs. I thought they should have ran the ball a little bit more in the Super Bowl.
Well, you and every other analyst in the second half said that, yes.
But they went away from that. So they have Mostert had his big game against the who was it against in the playoffs? Was
Packers?
Yes, Packers game where he rushes for over 200 yards.
I'd never heard of him.
But he's an undrafted running back, and nothing against the guy, but there's some running backs in this draft that put this guy in that Niners system. Might be a couple more 200 rushing yard games throughout the season, and I have the Niners taking J.K. Dobbins, running back from Ohio State.
That would be a great fit. Great fit. The reason I did not go with that exact pick is the Niners have 4 running backs that could obviously one went off for 200 yards. Matt Breida started out the season as kind of their number one. Wasn't healthy towards the end of the year. So that's the only reason I didn't go running back here. Whether it's, JK or even our boy.
Yeah.
Either one I think would be a great fit.
Yep.
Both of them catch the ball out of the backfield. Both of them run between the tackles and on the outside. I went defense here. I went Bryce Hall, corner from Virginia. Because, again, this is the best player available. There really aren't any gaping holes that you need to fix.
Yep.
So, and I'm sure the Niners they're not going to say no to some help on that already amazing defense. So, and the last pick in the first round of the 2020 NFL Draft, who do you have the Chiefs selecting?
So I couldn't not do this mock draft without throwing one of my Michigan guys in there. So I threw him in with the last pick, and I went offensive lineman Cesar Ruiz from Michigan. He's a very versatile offensive lineman. He played center for Michigan his entire time being there, but all the coaches were always saying that he could play either guard position. Probably would have been a better guard than center, but they had nobody else that could play center for him. So very versatile, and I think that why a lot of teams will look at him early in the draft because he's not necessarily tied up to one offensive line spot. He can probably play everything in the interior line.
Right. I went defense on this one. I think the defense was, even though in the postseason the defense kind of shored up a little bit for the Chiefs, but the offense is on a whole other level, and you could say that their offense is on a whole other level than any other offense in the league. So it's not really fair to compare that defense to the offense. But yes, I went Terrell Lewis, edge rusher out of, again, Alabama. Which is weird is Alabama had a quote-unquote down year. And I think I said the word Alabama more in this draft than any other team. But kind of paralleling that with your last pick. There's not. I mean, we had one Notre Dame player and you had one Michigan player, which leads me to believe that both Notre Dame and Michigan, they have young teams.
Yeah.
Young teams, especially at the talent positions. You know, obviously Ian Book coming back for another year. Not to say that Ian would have been picked with these quarterbacks, but the skill positions. Chase Claypool was one that I was. The only reason I put some of the receivers before him is that a lot of these receivers did it consistently for multiple years, where Claypool, the last 6 or 7 games for the Irish, really came on and established himself as a number one. And if I'm going to take a receiver in the first round, I want someone that is a little bit more proven. And now I think someone's going to get a hell of a steal in the second or third round going with Claypool to get a player like him. But like I said, there's the upside is there. But if I'm, especially first round talent is first round talent. I mean, that teams hit and miss in the second and third round, but very rarely do you see a team miss and whiff, especially in the NFL.
Yeah, no.
A lot of the other, you know, like baseball, shit like that, you see teams whiff on number one overall picks, which football does too. Football does too, but you don't see it nearly as often. Yeah. But I think that's a testament to, you know, Michigan having a lot of young players, Notre Dame having a lot of young players. So next year, we could be, you know, you look a few years back, there was 2 Notre Dame offensive linemen taken in the top 10, which are Pro Bowlers, and other position players and stuff. And, you know, probably was it the same draft or the year after that Harbaugh sent all of those defensive players? And
2016, I believe. Yeah, I think that was when it was 2016, and so it would have been 2017 draft. When...
Yeah. So, and look, you know, folks, let's sit down and actually be realistic. There's only one Nick Saban that can send all of these players through and reload and probably be better next year. So keep your chins up, guys. You know, well, that, and, you know, we didn't see a single Spartan on there.
No.
Which you traditionally see at least one Spartan go off the board on the defensive
from the defense
side.
Side of the ball, yeah.
And or maybe an offensive lineman here or there. But then you know, the Big Ten was represented, but you could definitely tell where the vast talent came from.
Yep.
So, well, 2Ks, we're at an hour 20, brother. I was thinking we might not be able to make the whole hour with this, but I think we did rather well.
Yeah.
I think we did rather well. Was there anything else we want to tie up on this?
No, I think that's it.
I think with all the names, I give us probably a B+ on pronouncing all of them. Yeah. Which I was really worried about botching the fuck out of a lot of these, which I did.
There's a couple in there that were like, I was actually kind of cheating. I was looking them up online so that way I could get the breakdown of how.
Well, 2K Crew, there it is, our mock draft 1.0, and we might we're definitely not going to do another whole show again and go over. We might update this. And
I'd like to look back on these after the draft, see what. And a lot of stuff is going to change. Obviously, there's going to be trades. We have the combine coming up next week. That's going to change a lot of things. You know, it seems like the combine every year always brings 2 or 3 kind of new names that show up in the first round that nobody was really
after the combine.
About.
I can guarantee this. I have 3 quarterbacks taken. You have like 12. It's going to be somewhere in between yours and mine because there's always that quarterback that goes, we're not even talking about him right now. It's just going to fly up the draft boards. And what's going to happen is, because we know the first 2 kind of where they're going. It's not a secret. It's just how they're going to get there. The first one's not a secret at all. You know, that I'm pretty sure the first 2 picks right now aren't going to change between now and draft day. It's going to be that mover and shaker that's going to go up the list, that's going to spark everything for anyone that's looking for a quarterback to scramble and get up the draft board, get their position to get there. It might not even be their guy, but a guy. And We've seen it. I've seen it happen year in and year out. You know, it's kind of the same as in fantasy football. You know, one person takes a quarterback, and all of a sudden,
Everybody.
oh fuck,
Yep.
I better get on the quarterback train. Well, yeah, we're about that hour 20. So 2K crew, we're gonna get you out on that. Thanks for hanging in there with us. But yes, we will definitely revisit this, kind of see how we did. Give us a grade marker, if you will. But everyone have a great week. We will talk to you next week. And we still have to give our our YouTube fam some love. So the audio family, this is where we're gonna leave you. As always, you know, Jim Rome, we're always coming for you. We're gonna get there one day. But for right now, we're coming for you. Well, YouTube crew, here it is. Again, I want to say thank you for everyone for listening and watching and tuning into the interview last week. That was really awesome. Between the two videos, it's our top 2 videos on the channel right now. So keep going, keep watching. But 2Ks, this baseball sign stealing bullshit has got me so pissed off.
Yeah.
For all of you that I will read you my tweet. Because I shared my tweet, and hold on there, and I actually, okay, this was for all the baseball fans. I think we can all sit here and say that Astros apology news conference was just bullshit. When the owner's sitting there saying that the results of this sign stealing had no effect on the games, fuck you.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. That's why their home batting averages were twice what their world batting average is. Don't insult my intelligence like that. No, sorry. And then the players, the only reason the players were saying sorry is they got fucking caught.
Exactly.
Stop it.
Yep.
If you wanted to, you have the choice to take and be like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. None of us should. But the one that should have been standing up the most, the one that stood on high and ripped every PED user a new asshole.
He was always against teams that were stealing signs.
Yeah.
He was one of the big.
Yeah. So my tweet is, and I sent this, it was on Valentine's Day.
And this is to Justin Verlander, correct? Yeah.
It says, I don't think I'm the only one that thinks the Astros mishandled the presser yesterday. Let's be real. The only reason you are sorry is you got caught. Then I tagged Mr. Verlander, at Justin Verlander. I am most disappointed in you. Your voice was loud against PEDs, yet nothing about this. JV came out and said, well, we should have handled it different. Fuck you. No. Now, if you really want to get into it, on the podcast LinkedIn page, I wrote an article about it. And yeah, Verlander's a Hall of Famer, first ballot. My respect for what he's done is out the fucking window. You cannot stand on a soapbox. No, it wasn't even a soapbox. He stood on a mountain. That was bigger than a soapbox. Looked down on the entire MLB and said, fuck you cheaters. You deserve no place in this game.
Yep.
Now, granted, one could argue, well, Turbo, Verlander he had nothing to do with that. He had nothing to do with them stealing signs. Guilty by association, brother. Because, A, his wins and losses were directly correlated with that. Now, was he in the box while the banging on the trash can was going on? No.
But he knew about it.
Fuck yeah, he
knew.
Fuck yeah, he did.
You can't have that going on and just be oblivious to it. Like,
no.
You know, and even in when all of this came out and people were asking the question, did Crane know about it when it was going on? And Crane's the owner there. Fuck yeah, he knew about it. How are you the owner of a baseball team and you don't know that something like that? You know, one of the biggest scandals of the history of this game, and you don't know that that's going on in there? Like, come on, you can't hear the fucking banging on the trash cans,
right? And I've had folks reach out to me and go, well, and to kind of piggyback, I'll say what I'm going to say, and then I'm going to make my point. Is they said, well, Turbo, once the investigation comes out on the Red Sox side, Obviously, I'm a huge Red Sox fan. If the same shit happens, give them the same fucking punishment. Hands down. Do I think it's the same? Nope. Nope. Now, one of the things that, because there's been a Washington Post article come out, which I read, that someone had leaked the information about what the MLB has gathered. It's not even close to the same. Not even close to the same. Now, to give a big shout out to the starting nine, I want to say it was this week's episode, they said that there's been allegations or stories, I guess, not allegations, stories, that kind of the ringleader in all this was Mr. Beltran, sorry. Comes in because he was with Texas before he was with the Astros, and he's getting long in the tooth and wants to win a ring. So he walks in and is like, "Hey guys, we're gonna win. This is how we're gonna do it." Which is kind of contradictory because a lot of folks in the beginning said that Alex Cora was the one that not instigated, but it put this into effect. The article also goes on to say that they started doing this in 2016. Alex Cora was at ESPN in 2016 with the obviously with the Astros in 17 and the Red Sox in 18. So, and then of course, if you listen to the Starting Nine podcast, they break it down. And Dallas has lived that life, that clubhouse life. He knows exactly how not necessarily this situation, but situations similar. And I know that I'm sure you've listened to the episode, but kind of the same. I'm going to go over the same example that Jared uses. You're a rookie. You come up with it. The team doesn't matter. You break camp with the team, so it's your first real big break, and you were a huge Ken Griffey Jr. fan. I mean, we're talking like you're maybe 21, 22 years old. Griffey comes up in the clubhouse. You're a huge Ken Griffey Jr. fan, and it's your first real time in the show. And he goes, "Guys, we're gonna win because I want a ring. I want a ring. I want to retire. This is how we're gonna do shit." As a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid, you're staring at your fucking idol. And you're not going to stand up and say, "Mr. Griffey, we can't do that. That's cheating." You're going to fucking do it.
Well, if you do stand up to that, then you're probably going to be packing your shit and you're out. Because Griffey, they're probably going to go tell whoever he wants, like, "Hey, this so-and-so.
Get this motherfucker out of here.
Ryan Jackson can fucking go. He's out." So
While I'm leaving, Mr. Griffey, can I have your autograph? But there's some that whether Beltre's a first ballot Hall of Famer or not, I think he will get in eventually. But his personality, and especially with some of the Latin kids there, that Beltran was a stud. I mean, switch hitting stud. Outfield, before he got fat and lazy, he could run center field like anybody's business. So I could see a lot of the Latin kids idolizing him. And the one person that they kind of threw under the bus, I shouldn't say throw under the bus because that's not really the right term, but pointed out that if anyone could challenge Beltran, I keep saying Beltran, but Beltran would be McCann. McCann had been he has a ring with the Yankees. You know, he came up with the Braves with all the pros for both of those. And
well, he's another guy that is, you're supposed to play this game the way that, old school mentality. How many times did we see him chasing, Carlos Gomez around the bases or Yasiel Puig, and getting on those guys for showing pitchers up, hitting home runs. But, then we don't say a word, when we're cheating to win World Series. So,
and he started out, he's like, "You know what, this is wrong. I'm not doing this." Well, a few games go by, and then there's video evidence of Mr. McCann banging on a fucking trash can. So even the ones that are long in the tooth, that are pros, it's got to be a lot of peer pressure And now we've got Carlos Correa coming out saying that Reddick and Altuve didn't cheat in 2017. Shut your fucking mouth. Save it. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, to me, like, I was listening to a thing. I think it was on Twitter, and it was Cody Bellinger kind of going off about the 2019 walk off against Aroldis Chapman, where you hit a walk off to send you to go to the World Series off of Aroldis Chapman, and as you're running the bases, you're screaming and yelling for people not to take your jersey off. And Bellinger's like, if I hit a home run off of Chapman to send me into the World Series, like, you can take my pants off as I'm coming around the bases. Yeah. And then before that, you go down into the clubhouse
to change your shirt
before you come back. Like, something's going on here. There's you cannot argue that one bit. Like, why the fuck would you go down there and change you're not thinking like that in that situation. In that situation, like, I don't give a fuck where my jersey ends up. No. I don't care where my pants are. I'll run around these bases in my birthday suit.
Yep.
I just hit a fucking walk-off against probably the best closer in Major League Baseball right now.
Well, aside from hitting a walk-off in Game 7 of the World Series, that's the biggest home run, is to send you to the World Series. Yeah, I don't give a fuck. No. And for someone to have the wherewithal to actually know, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Now, it's a whole other story that Dusty Baker, the new manager, which I think isn't a bad hire, to be honest with you.
It's a perfect hire.
But he's come out and he wants to get everyone to say that the pitchers in Major League Baseball aren't going to throw at my guys. Well, you know what? Your players made their fucking bed, dude. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this is going to be the gift that keeps on giving all the way through the season. And Rob Manfred came out today in an interview at ESPN, and he's like, that doesn't happen in our game.
Well, Mr. Manfred's probably the main culprit in this, and why some of these players are going to be getting thrown at and possibly injured in situations like this, is because these players are not being held accountable. Like, you can basically, all you have to do is go on and say, I'm sorry. Yep. And then they think that the rest of Major League Baseball is supposed to just be like, okay, yeah, we're going to move on now.
Oh, he's sorry.
No, fuck that. You stole a World Series opportunity from a lot of teams. You stole
an MVP from Judge, if you want, in 2017 with Altuve. So.
Like, you can't just, there's no way, there's no fix for this. Like, I knew that eventually these players were going to come out and apologize for it. And I knew that it was going to go over.
It's going to be bullshit.
Yeah, because Major League Baseball had to hold those players accountable, and these players there should be suspensions for this. I don't know if it should be an entire season, maybe half a season, 60 games, I don't know. But there has to be, these players need to be held accountable, and if they're not, other players in the league are going to hold them accountable, because
baseball has a way of policing itself. Mm-hmm. So folks that are saying that the Astros got off easy, well, first of all, it's collectively bargained that they can only get the fine that they were levied. The commissioner cannot do anything about that. The players, yes, I agree that they should be penalized. They should be suspended. You know what? Just make it the same as a PED suspension, 81 games. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think even then, you come back to game 82 and Altuve's wearing one. Mm-hmm. Bregman's wearing one.
Absolutely.
And like I said, because of Rob Manfred, this is going to be the gift that keeps on giving throughout the whole year. I'm putting it over and under 15 bench clears. It's going to get to the point where the bullpen for Houston is going to get probably more cardio in during the season than they ever had, because they're going to have to come trucking in because Altuve's wearing another one. Mm-hmm. And if I'm Altuve, I might want to invest in like a bulletproof vest or something. Now, they're shooting at him, but catching a 97 mile an hour piece of cheese in the middle of the back cannot feel good. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's going to be wearing them. Carrasco, or the whole team is. Yep. The whole team is. And now I pray that they bring up some kid during the middle of the year. Leave that kid alone. Mm-hmm. But everybody else, man, especially some of these, like, can you picture Trevor Bauer towing the rubber the first time with Altuve leading off? Mm-hmm. If I'm Altuve, I'm sick that day. Mm-hmm. But you know what? Bauer's going to be wrecking folks when Clevenger comes back, because he unfortunately tore something in his knee. Yep. He's going to be There's a lot. I have a feeling every Dodgers pitcher is gonna.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
gonna be. They're gonna be black and blue. But you know what?
They did it themselves.
They should be the first ones to just stand up, dust themselves off, and walk to first base with their mouth shut, because it was their choice that put them here. So, all right, 2K crew, we're not going to preach any more morality or anything else like that. But as a baseball fan, you never want to see people get hurt. But in this case, I don't think anyone's going to get thrown at their head by any means. But yeah, there's going to be some Astros players wearing. They're going to get worn out.
Oh, yeah.
But like we
And
said, they're the ones that put themselves there.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm a Trevor Bauer, and I believe, I've taken this mountain, and I'm preaching down to everyone. And if Manfred comes out with some stupid rule that says, well, you hit him, it's 3-game suspension. Okay, let's get it done early in the season.
Yeah.
Because I'm proving my point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proving my point. So, and I think there's going to be a lot of other ones too that, granted, they're not as outspoken as Mr. Bauer. And if you guys, did we talk about his YouTube channel?
I think we did. We mentioned it one time.
Search Trevor Bauer on YouTube. He has he has a show on Friday. It's called Ask Trev or something like that. It's not the best video quality, but what comes out of his mouth is quality enough. So. All right, 2K video crew, we'll get you out on that. Go ahead, remember to like, subscribe, comment, and we'll read the comments on the air. But until next time, we will see you later.